Hello everybody, my name is Andrew Casey at Hypersanity Books, and today I'll be reviewing Robin Hood and the Merry Men. This particular book, I'll be comparing it to the movie Robin Hood Men in Tights, just to make it more interesting. Otherwise, let's get into it. The Adventures of Robin Hood was created by Howard Pyle, who also did the illustrations to his own book. Now, with different adaptations, some of the illustrations have changed. Therefore, I am really not sure what the original artwork looks like. One of the main things to focus on with this review as well, when we watch the movie Robin Hood Men in Tights, there are characters that are in the movie that are not in the book. And then there are other characters in the book that don't have a big role due to just being supporting characters while they're on their merry adventures, literally singing. It's almost like a High School Musical. There is about 30 or so songs in the entire book. If you like poetry, if you're interested in looking at something written in 1883, it might be a book for you. In the movie Robin Hood Men in Tights, a sneeze, father of a chew, bless you! Well, they're both not in the book. Also, the character Blinken, he's not in the book. Now, there is also a scene, I just want to point out something here. Just watch this little part. Look back at that scene and you notice his glasses have moved forward from his face when he fell, so that is why he was able to see. Yeah, little spoiler there. Now, there were another character, Will Scarlet. He has his name come up in about 5 or 6 different versions to his name. And that became quite confusing. So he had, his name was William, Scarlet William, something else. Maybe he should just explain it to us.
Scarlet's my middle name. My full name is Will Scarlet O'Hara.
The character Latrine was also not in the book. However, when you see what happened to the Sheriff of Rottingham in the story, there's certain parts to give it a little bit of humour. There's that, but in the story, Robin Hood manipulates to making a deal with the sheriff to leading him out into the forest where he's kidnapped. And he is actually forced to watch their talent show. So with, if you want to say the song Men in Tights, Tight Tights, yes, he is subjected to their ways of being merry, getting him absolutely drunk. That was also mentioned by Prince John in the film. So these little subplots that you find between the stories and different adaptations actually still come from the main source material, just a different interpretation to being merry. With the book, there are a lot of scenes that are in a different order to the book with the film. It has a fast pace, however the book is also lengthy, so there are a lot of extra scenes added in there, hence to the reason it had a lot of songs for the book. One of the things that I found was most interesting is how Little John is introduced into the story where they have the fight on the bridge. Now, I've seen adaptations to it, and yes, with the whole falling in water, like this.
Help me! I can't swim! I'm drowning! Oh God, I'm drowning!
It feels like an exaggeration, but when you actually read the story, it's not such an exaggeration after all. Little John has a fear of water. There is even a scene where Robin Hood has sent him out on a mission to another area, and he doesn't obey, though he uses the excuse of rainfall, because he's afraid of rain. He suffers from aquaphobia. This is probably an example of childhood trauma. Childhood trauma with aquaphobia can come in a number of ways. A loss of a family member who drowned. It can also come into a bad experience swimming, being forced underwater. Then there are other experiences of even listening to stories about drowning. So he has a particular character flaw that I found was quite interesting in the book that doesn't come in other adaptations, except for the only true scene I've seen that has kept to this is literally in this particular film with Little John. It's actually very close to the source material, where I haven't seen other adaptations be close to it yet. There are other scenes that come into the story, like with the archery contest. That is a lot earlier in the story. With that being said, there were other antagonist characters in the story set around that setting. There was other characters who were extremely good at archery and gave up their career knowing that they could not be the best. And I think that's one of the things within that time. There was a lot of pressure to be the best, and being second best was never good enough. Hence to one of the reasons Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee didn't want to fight. They did their movies, but they both had a fear of losing and what the public would think of them by losing, because of that pressure being at the top, that level or that plateau that can't be obtained. So they could be... This is one thing I found was interesting with the story. Robin Hood didn't have the fear, and with a lot of his ego and pride, it gets in the way of the story a little bit as his character flaw. Now, with the story, I have to say, I rate this 5 out of 5. It was enjoyable. For me, the singing and the poetry was not so good. However, if you are interested in that sort of thing, I would say read this book if you want to learn more on that type of subject. It is a good reference tool. If you're looking for a happy ending, you're not going to find it, to be honest. Especially with the epilogue. I won't spoil it, but the epilogue basically explains how every character is going to die, and finalising the story that way, in its own story to how each character eventually dies, with the final character being Robin Hood showing his grave. Otherwise, that's it for today. Hit like, subscribe, comment. I'll be posting more videos soon. Thank you all, and these are my tights.